Welcome, everyone. My name is Cyril Dapwa, and I'm the Chief Representative of Dubai Chamber's office in Ghana, covering the West African sub-region. Thank you very much for joining us for today's webinar, African Women in Business, Connecting the Dots to the UAE Market and Expo 2020. Our first series today, How to Set Up, Export and Do Business in the UAE, is organized by Dubai Chamber of Commerce in collaboration with the African Union Commission and Center for Accelerated Women's Economic Empowerment, and with support from our trusted partners, Bismoses Business Group and Dubai Exports. To commence the webinar, I would like to cover a few housekeeping rules to ensure that we have a very seamless event this morning. Today's webinar is being recorded, and we will be able to share the link with you after this event is complete. We encourage everyone to revisit the content afterwards to ensure that you don't miss anything. We also welcome you to share and revisit the content with your colleagues who are not here with us today. We also invite your comments and questions. Please look at the Q&A box on your screen. And if you think you have a question at any point during this webinar, please feel free to type it in the Q&A section, and it will be posed to our various speakers. During this webinar, your microphone will also be disabled by our virtual host to ensure that there is an optimal and smooth webinar experience. We also encourage you, as I've just mentioned, to keep your microphones muted, and also close all inactive web tabs that you have open to ensure that your internet does not overload. Today's webinar will highlight everything you need to know, basically, setting up a business in Dubai, exporting, and doing business in the UAE in general. I'm glad to let you know that we have over 430 people registered to attend this webinar today from over 35 countries. So it actually shows the importance of this webinar topic. Today's moderator of the webinar will be Mrs. Nigers Haley. She is the founder and executive director for the Center of Accelerated Women's Economic Empowerment, also known as CAWI. Mrs. Nigers is an activist in the promotion of women entrepreneurs with particular focus on women exporters. She has over 23 years experience working in the Ethiopian Ministry of Trade and Industry in different capacities. In 2004, she founded CAWI, pioneer trade promotion organization working in the country, providing promotional and capacity building support that targets women exporters specifically. Haley has facilitated business in the export market, bringing buyers to Ethiopia, as well as taking trade missions of women entrepreneurs to different countries. Nigers has played various crucial roles where in the past few years, she has been able to organize various trade missions to countries such as Canada, USA, Mexico, UK, Germany, Turkey, South Africa, Egypt, Rwanda, and several other countries. She is one of the promoters and founders of the first women's commercial bank named Inat Bank in Ethiopia, and she currently serves on the board as well. This is actually her third term serving at the bank board. Nigers has received several professional awards, actually over 10 professional awards throughout her career, and serves on several global boards. Welcome to the webinar, Mrs. Nigers. Hey, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Cyril, for the kind introduction. As mentioned by Cyril, my name is Nigist Haile, the founder and executive director of CAWI, and I will be moderating our webinar today. Again, thank you all for joining us at our today's webinar, with the big theme of African women in business connecting the dots to the UAE market and Expo 2020. Our first series, how to set up, export, and do business in the United Arab Emirates, organized by Dubai Chamber of Commerce and Industry in collaboration with the African Union Commission and our organization CAWI, with the support of Bismoses Business Group and Dubai Exports. Why do we need to organize such series of webinars? From 1st October 2021 to the 31st of March 2022, the largest event ever staged in the World Expo 2020 Dubai is set to welcome 192 participating countries and millions of visitors from across the globe. Under the theme, Connecting Minds, Creating the Future, Expo 2020 is guided by the belief that Innovation and progress are the results of people and ideas coming together in original and unique ways. Participating nations will showcase their innovations, achievements, and aspirations at Expo 2020, while exploring the three sub-themes of opportunity, mobility, and sustainability. The African Union Commission AUC will be joining the rest of the world participating at the Expo Dubai 2020. As part of its participation, the AUC envisages organizing the African Women in Business exhibition and conference. This exhibition and conference is in line with the AUC Agenda 2063, which defines the aspirations of the African people by the year 2063, defining that African women will be fully empowered in all spheres with equal social, political, and economic rights. In light of this, the Women's Gender Development Directorate, WGDD of the AUC, in partnership with us, with CAWI and Dubai Chamber of Commerce, as well as our support partners, Bismos Business Group, and other organizations will be organizing the planned exhibition and summit for the African women in business at Expo 2020 Dubai for 3 consecutive days. That's why, as I was asking questions, why we wanted to organize those series of webinars. Before we go to the presentations and the details of our webinar, now it gives me a great pleasure to welcome the chief representatives of Dubai Chamber Africa offices. This will take a few minutes to introduce themselves and the market areas they cover. We thought this is very important because we have invited quite a good number of African countries, our partners, colleagues, friends that are operating in the different parts of our continent, and will be good knowing who is heading which office, which particular office, and who is covering which country within Africa, so that you can have a better contact and connections with those who will be introducing themselves to us. So over to you, our chief representatives of Dubai Chamber area offices, introducing briefly yourself so that participants and all know you, who you are and which country you're covering.
Thank you, Mrs. Negist. My name is Tiba Molla. I cover the Ethiopia office. But before we move forward, can we do the welcome remarks by Mr. Omar?
Thank you, Ms. Najest. Ladies and gentlemen, good time of the day here to you. I appreciate your presence here, and I appreciate the support of our partners in CAWI, as well as Bismosis, and all across the continent, including the international offices of Dubai Chamber of Commerce and Industry. As we go towards Expo, we're very excited to be working with all our partners and building the trust and the momentum with them. Expo is going to host over 192 countries, and women are a very important component of business, of life, of the planet in general. I know this because I have 4 sisters, and I have Miss Tiba and Miss Najest always here setting the pace and setting the example as well. But one thing that's important is that women are 50% or more of the population in general, wherever you go. And their power was not really fully realized. But in World War II, when the men had to go and fight in the wars, who do you think took over the factories? Who do you think was building the machinery, the trucks, the tanks? It was women. Women took up, put their responsibilities. Actually, they didn't put it aside. They added more responsibilities then, and really took up to support their own countries, really arm and shoulder and supporting them in World War II. Of course, after that, they were expected to go back, and there was an uphill battle. But we're very happy to be here today supporting this never-ending cause as well, because again, I also have daughters. I have 2 daughters myself, and I believe that we should be setting the milestones in building a better world and an equal world for women, especially in terms of creating equal opportunities. So this is what we have here today. And going towards Expo, of course, we were very proud to be working with Cowie, as well as through them, through the African Union, for the Africa Women in Business Summit that will be happening hopefully within Expo. So this is a roadshow where we touch upon all the different requirements, all the different opportunities, and all the gaps as well, and discuss how women can be more empowered in business, how women can be more aware in terms of skills, in terms of training, and in terms of access to opportunities as well. Not just that, but in Expo, Dubai Chamber is the business integration partner of Expo 2020. So we will be hosting 3 global business forums. Of course, the very prominent one will be the Global Business Forum for Africa, edition number 6, which will be an Expo edition. We'll have the one for ASEAN in December, and then in March, we'll have the Global Business Forum for Latin America. Why I mention this is, of course, if you trade through, in, or via Dubai, these are markets that your product as well can get to. We will also have the Global Islamic Economy Summit. Of course, agribusiness is something very important, and Islamic agribusiness and food and beverages also is very key. In terms of other activities, we'll be looking at the Retail Summit 2021, and of course, the 12th edition of the World Chambers Congress. So we're going to be very busy there, and we want to make sure that women take their share of the action in these activities. And of course, Dubai Chamber has many different support activities, such as the Dubai Startup Hub, where we want to also see stronger women participation. We have our own initiative, the Dubai Business Women's Council, and also we're very happy to have Dr. Ashraf with us from Dubai Exports, who will be here to cover also the opportunity of the She Trades Global initiative, which the Dubai Exports is also the local representative of and supporter of and champion of. So again, there's so much happening as we go towards Expo, and this Expo is not going to be like a big ending. It's going to be a platform for the next initiative, because Africa is coming together. The Africa Continental Free Trade Agreement is being pushed forward. The agenda will take time, but it will get there. And it's very important that women are also placed in the right opportunity, in the right place, right time, with the right education level, training, and so many different aspects, whether it's financing, whether it's marketing capabilities, you name it, to take advantage of this, because this will be a legacy. This will be something in many, many years to come and generations to come. And hopefully we see many women CEOs on Forbes magazine from Africa going forward. Thank you very much, and best of luck at this event.
Thank you, Mr. Omar. I'm sorry I skipped the major one, which our speakers, our guests of honor should have been.
No worries, Your Excellency.
Introduced. So Omar, you will excuse me, including Tapwa. So we're the official opening. Mr. Omar, you know that you're close to our heart. We know that you had been involved in quite different years of experience managing, overseeing 11 international offices, out of which 4 are located within the continent of Africa, and others ranging from 2 in China, India, Azerbaijan, and 3 in Latin America, Brazil, Panama, and Argentina. We can imagine the experience and the expertise you have, as your remark had been indicating. Your best wishes as well in empowering African women in business. Mr. Omar, you are as well Kawe's beloved partner, along with all your team in all the offices, particularly the Ethiopia office, indeed playing a crucial role in Kawe's capacity building, in expanding Kawe's networks and establishing partnerships, which the center always is grateful and appreciating. So thank you so much, Mr. Omar. We hope you will continue continuing empowering us and also our African women in business. Thank you so much for the kind words and introductory remarks. Our next speaker will be from the Women Gender Development Directorate, providing us remarks, the AUC. Miss Victoria, the acting head of the AUC WGDD, due to family emergency, is not able joining us. Dr. Tapiwa, who is our close partner, very closely working with us, the head of Gender Policy and Development Division, is with us today to deliver the remarks on behalf of Victoria. Dr. Tapiwa, over to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, my dear sister and guest, for the kind introduction. And good afternoon, everyone from Addis Ababa, the political capital city of the African Union. Well, Mr. Omar Khan, Director of International Offices, Dubai Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Mrs. Mariama Babok, Founder and CEO, Bizmoses Business Services, Dr. Ashraf Ali Mahate, Chief Economist, Dubai Export Representatives of Civil Society Organizations, as well as Mrs. Neges Haile, Founder and Executive Director of Kawe, our moderator, Mr. Cyril Dakwa, Chief Representative of the West Africa Region, Dubai Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of Ms. Victoria Maloka, the Acting Director of the Women, Gender and Youth Directorate, and also on behalf of the Chairperson of the African Union Commission, His Excellency Mr. Musa Faki Mahamat, and on my own behalf, it is a pleasure to join this webinar on African women in business, connecting the dots to the UAE market and Expo 2020 webinar series, how to set up, export, and do business in the UAE. Ms. Maloka has asked me to convey her heartfelt apologies as she's unable to join us due to a bereavement in the family that unfortunately coincided with our meeting today. Nonetheless, she asked me to express her deep appreciation to all of you for taking time off your busy schedules to join us in this webinar. She also requested that I convey her gratitude to the Dubai Chamber of Commerce and Industry and Kawe for organizing this event. The Women, Gender and Youth Directorate has enjoyed a successful partnership with Kawe, which has contributed greatly in ensuring that women entrepreneurs on the continent are well supported. And with the Dubai Chamber of Commerce coming on board, we hope that this will also be entrenched. Ladies and gentlemen, the past year will go down in history as unprecedented, paradoxical, and challenging year for the African Union agenda for gender equality and empowerment of women. As we celebrated Africa's achievements during the 10 years of the first decade of African women, the 20 years of the UN Security Council Resolution 1325 on Women, Peace and Security, and the 25th anniversary of the Beijing Declaration and its platform for the action, we also deplored the regression of our gender gains following the COVID-19 pandemic. Among others things, we have seen how this pandemic has contributed to the sharp increase in violence against women and girls, and also has affected tremendously many African economies where our African women, young girls and boys, and entrepreneurs operate, which in turn has exacerbated deep structural injustices and inequalities in Africa. Ladies and gentlemen, in our African continent, which is developing at a high speed and at all levels, it is clear that the importance attached to women's role and place is very fundamental, especially for our women entrepreneurs. As a lever of change and holder of the world record for women's entrepreneurship, our continent is not left behind when it comes to promoting women's rights, equal and equality between men and women. How to set up export and do business in UAE webinar series has come at a right time for African women in business, considering that in 2020, during the African Union Assembly in February last year, the heads of state and government adopted a new decade of African women titled Financial and Economic Inclusion of African Women, which reflects the continental's determination to strengthen efforts and mechanisms towards the full empowerment of women, essential for sustainable development of our countries. I firmly believe that the new decade will fill the gaps and bring economic and financial justice to African women. Doing business in the UAE will offer that opportunity and continue to the realization of this new decade for our African women. As I conclude, let me highlight this. As we are planning as we're planning to participate at the Dubai Expo, the African Union Commission is very excited to be associated with this, and we look forward to mobilizing the African women entrepreneurs to the Dubai Expo. With these few remarks, I wish us all a fruitful discussion. Thank you for your kind attention, and over to you, Nigest, please.
Thank you, Dr. Tapiwa, for the kind remarks and encouraging and promising words. Hope our partnership will continue bringing out results. Thank you so much. Before we move further, let me ask the audience to respond to this poll question which we are screening. The poll question 1. It says, have you ever considered setting up a business in Dubai before? So do you mind responding your yes or no? Then we will, just 60 seconds, 1 minute. Then we'll get back the summary, then we'll continue. Let's wait for the poll results.
Thank you everyone for participating in the poll questions. As you can see, we have 74% of you that have said, yes, you have considered doing business in Dubai before. That's an impressive number. We'll see what, we'll try to convince the other 26 that didn't vote yes to think about doing business in Dubai.
Hello. Yeah, my connection was
Mrs. Nigist?
Yeah, my connection.
Okay,
I'm sorry for that.
That's okay. We finished sharing the poll results. We can go on. We can continue now.
Hello.
Mrs. Nigist, are you on?
Yeah, my connection was gone, so I'm moving to another PC. So I was not able to explain on the poll results. Hope it was screened. So
Sure, no problem. I was able to cover that part.
Let's continue on what. Do you want to summarize the poll results since I haven't seen it?
Sure. The poll results were 74% of the people that responded said yes to the question of have they thought about doing business in Dubai before. And by the end of this webinar, we hope the other 26 that didn't say yes will be convinced and try to and think about doing business in Dubai.
Good. Thank you, Teba. So we proceed as per our program, which I had been explaining before the remarks were made. So our chief representatives from the Dubai Chamber Africa offices, over to you, briefly introducing yourself so that countries can know who you are and where you are based so that they create contacts and establish relationships. Thank you, over to you.
This is Nikki. I Dubai Chamber of Commerce, Ethiopia office, with an outreach of the Hub of Africa. One thing I would love to say at this webinar is I really want to appreciate my leadership, starting with Mr. Omar Khan, which is my direct boss, all the way up to our president and CEO. Seriously, they are, I have a line of men leaders, and I've never been so empowered in my life as a woman. I never even thought about that topic in the past, but they absolutely empower me, and they empower me to empower others to be able to hold webinars such as this and participate in the upcoming Expo 2020, the African Union Business Summit for Women. So Mr. Omar, I really want to take this time to say thank you, and it is a blessing to work for you.
Thank you so much, Tiba.
Thank you, Tabaj.
You're welcome.
A very good afternoon to all from Nairobi. My name is Michael Gathu, and I'm the Chief Representative of the Dubai Chamber International Office here in Kenya, and we further oversight responsibilities for the East African Community countries, Rwanda, Tanzania, Uganda, and Burundi. Thank you so much, all of you who are joining us from the 25 countries. We look forward to engaging more and appreciate your presence. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael.
My name is Sir Dakwa, and I'm the Chief Representative of Dubai Chamber of Commerce based in Ghana, overseeing the Western sub-region. I'm glad to find out that over 35 people from over 35 countries have actually joined us today. Thank you so much for taking time to be with us today.
Thank you, Cyril. Abdullah.
Hello, everyone. My name is Abdullah Mumad. I'm in charge of our office in Mozambique, and I'm also covering the Southern Africa region. I'm very proud to be here with you today and wish you a successful webinar. Thank you.
Thank you, Abdullah. Thank you all chief representatives. I know you all are playing important and crucial roles in connecting your markets with UAE, but in particular with Dubai. So the audience, if you have any questions for any of the chief representatives during the webinar or after the webinar, I kindly ask you to write your questions on the next, on the box below or the window, or you can post it in the chat box directly to them where they will be they will share their contact details. Thank you so much. Now we move to our webinar. It's my pleasure to introduce our panelists, Miss Mariana Bulbuk, a dynamic lady who I had a chance to listen to her quite lots of times, who is regarded as the miracle worker by many of our clients. Marina is the CEO and Managing Director of Bismos Business Group. Welcome, Marina. We're really glad having you. It's indeed an opportunity listening to your experiences, long-term business practices. So let's get to know you more from your own words. Who is Marina? Tell us which Bismos is what, and what are your services offering, and what does the name Bismos mean, and what are the pros and cons of getting a business license in the UAE, and the differences between the free zone in the main zone, which all of us are really interested to know. So I will continue the rest of my questions, but let's hear from you on some of the issue areas which I just highlighted.
Thank you for such a warm introduction, Ms. Megis Hayel. It's as always, an honor to be invited. Thank you, Mr. Omar Khan, and all the Dubai Chamber representative offices to invite me to this round online table. Also, it's an honor to partner with African Union representatives, TAWI, Dubai Chamber, and Dubai Expo in delivering the message to the women around the globe, especially African women in business, that UAE and Dubai is the best place to consider when wanting to expand your business. I'll start briefly about myself. I would like to believe that Mariana, or me, is the live example of a woman from Moldova that had no connections or contacts or knowledge about the UAE, but decided 10 years ago to start and base its business operations in Dubai and in the UAE. And I'm a live example of the success that I have built nowadays known and recognized group, business groups in the region. And this would have never happened if not for the support, the openness, the proactive listening and assistance of the local authorities of the Dubai and UAE government in providing those platforms for building the success, in providing the needed information, and in actually having the openness of a female entrepreneur that came here to try her luck and allow me that impartial opportunities and equal access to the benefits in the country. So I'm very thankful, and I am a passionate and dedicated leader in all to do business and licensing and companies restructuring in the UAE. An avid fighter for women entrepreneurs, knowledge access in the UAE. And I'd like to lead by example in saying that Business Group is that miracle workers platform or business osmosis platform that I have created that allows access to entrepreneurs or opens the communication to the government authorities, mediates the understanding, the cultural diversity, the product diversity, and the expectations of investors and the UAE government in order to guarantee a successful exchange of information and further support the businesses from around the globe of women and not only entrepreneurs into the Dubai and into the UAE. I and the entire team at Business have dedicated a decade in tailored business solutions and continue to do so, and hope to build a 100-year-old brand in the UAE and not only recognized around the globe that will continue supporting businesses. When we speak about what are the pros or cons of opening a business in Dubai and UAE, I must say that I don't see many cons. I might be biased because I'm here and I'm doing business and I love it and I enjoy it. However, investor from abroad that decides to move into the UAE, its presence or its business or trade of goods and services in the UAE should think of the UAE as a gate, not just a local market, but a gate to the region and a proof of concept to the around the globe. And if we speak about importing or exporting products through Dubai and through the UAE, your company will have that automatic recognition based on exceptional standardization and metrology standards that are applied to goods that are registered or recorded in the UAE that are recognized around the globe. If we speak about service provision, then the due diligence that the government locally does in order to approve investors of specific qualifications is also high regarded around the world. And being present in Dubai and in the UAE market allows you to have that openness around the globe. A great benefit of why you should consider getting a business license in the UAE is also reduced costs, because in the last 5 years, the UAE government at local and federal level kept decreasing the fees for licensing and registering businesses in the UAE. During COVID incentives that were of great support to businesses, lots of fees have been removed with a decrease of up to 90% in registering the products and obtaining permits for import or export, or reducing the fees for customs fees. In this case, it is now the right time to benefit of all these exceptional support platforms that the government offers. Another important aspect is that in the UAE, the reputation and security of your engagements and contractual agreements with suppliers and clients are protected and recognized. So you are seen locally and internationally as a trustworthy brand and investment due to the exceptional reputation that UAE as a country has worldwide and the diplomatic relationships that are present. Having a residency as an investor in the UAE opens access to bank accounts, education for family members, retirement that is comfortable and enjoyable, and a very short trip to reach almost majority cities and destinations around the world. Should you decide to make UAE not only your business presence, but your residency and your place of home, second home or first, which became my case. Ms. Najis, I'm happy to answer for the question.
Yes, Marianne, a few questions to add. And lastly, I will ask a question related to Dubai Expo, but a few questions who really want to start business in Dubai. How long can the process of getting a license typically take, and how much should someone get prepared to pay? And what license would you recommend for a new startup? And the other one is, can I have a passion of a project or Instagram business without a license? And one more, can I do business across GCC or even internationally with my UAE business license? These are questions related to startups in starting doing business in the UAE. Then I'll come to the Expo question. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you, Ms. Najis. I will start answering from the last to the front, the questions. First of all, I would like to mention that in UAE, if you're targeting UAE consumers or suppliers, you have to have a license irrespective of how big or small your business is. So even if it's via Instagram or independent website or through third-party distributors, in order for you to directly operate in services and goods provision inside the UAE market, you are required by law to present a license in accordance to the area of expertise. UAE, however, has made available now licenses from freelancers that offer also possibility of residency that start as low as $150 per year, and also licenses for handicraft and service provision that start from $250 per year, and trading licenses or import-export and product distribution licenses that start as low as $2,500 per year. So it is important to be correctly registered in order to avoid penalties and fines, and also to make sure that your services and your goods are protected. In a moment that you trade without formally being registered, obviously your payments are not protected. You cannot have claims to the debt in case the consumer decides not to pay you. And in case there is a dispute with the consumer, you cannot be protected by local authorities, and your expertise and services need to be recognized by local authorities in order for you to have access to all the benefits authorities present locally and internationally. To participate in government platforms, accelerators, funding access, you would definitely need to have a license. So this is why we always emphasize with investors that look to trade or operate in the UAE, the first thing you have to review is what type of license is correct for you, how much does that license cost, and make sure that you're legally registered before promoting services and goods in the market. If we say about can I do business across the region and worldwide with a license in the UAE? Yes, most definitely. Licenses in the UAE do not cover just the jurisdiction of the country over the city that you're registered in. There are obviously benefits between free zone license packages and mainland and the main DD department licensing. However, all licenses allow you to present services internationally, to contract with distributors in other markets, to offer expertise and contract your services in other markets worldwide. And if I refer to my introduction, once again, having a license in the UAE, be it a free zone or a mainland or a freelance, it's opening doors to worldwide presence through recognition of the country's standards and subsequently your business trust. When we speak about startups, however, there is a multitude of choices, and in the UAE, sometimes an investor can be overwhelmed by how many options are there. We're speaking in excess of 45 free-zone jurisdictions that offer numerous licensing platforms, plus each Emirates at local level and the DED departments offer also numerous types of companies, structures, and licenses. Obviously, startups have to be cost-effective in order to be successful. However, one of the most repeated sentences that we offer to now in excess of 7,000 plus clients that Bizmosys Group is serving is that do not make economies in obtaining the cheapest, however, the incorrect license to your business, because it might cost you more later on to restructure it or to change it to the correct structure. So do the correct research, approach the Dubai Chamber offices and representatives. They are very well trained and very proactive in answering the questions and helping you in finding those answers. You're more than welcome to connect with Bizmosys team through our online presence, and we're happy to answer you the questions and impartially advise what is the correct license for you. Is it a freelance? Is it a free-zone jurisdiction, a mainland license? There's many licenses nowadays for startups that offer cost-effective setup with no office rent requirements, so then you can make savings or investment in real estate from the first year. So do your research, approach the right and correct channels, and then make the decision based on what is most suitable for you. Last but not least, how long can the license be processed? Nowadays in the UAE, the licensing can be issued between 15 minutes, and I'm not joking here, 15 minutes, a DED e-trader license online can be obtained, and up to half an hour, a freelance license through Abu Dhabi DED. A business operational license can take anything between 24 hours and up to 7 working days, depending on the complexity of your activities and complexity of your business model. And the benefits of COVID, despite many disruptions that have occurred in the last year, is that UAE government, within a matter of weeks, has readjusted its systems, and majority of licensing platforms, including residency registrations, are now available for investors from abroad. So you no longer physically have to be present in order to sign documents. Online verification of identity is available, and it's a cost-effective option, quick to process, and then gives the flexibility once the license is generated to travel to the UAE within a longer period of time, and then to base your business and your presence here without a major investment in commute and long stay in the country for the purpose of licensing.
Thank you, Mariana. We're having lots of questions, but exhausting mine, and I'll move to the questions from the audience. One question related to our upcoming Expo 2020, as we are going to have delegations of women in business to be there. Expo 2020 is a platform that will allow businesses to a global market. Companies will have the platform to showcase their products, not only to the UAE consumers, but to people visiting from 192 countries. So to prepare to Expo 2020, what are some of the things, in your opinion, African women in business should do in advance to be globally competitive? For example, should they review the quality of their products, issues of branding, packaging, marketing, distribution? I think these are very important questions. So if you can provide a brief explanation on that, then I will go to the audience questions in the time which will be left over to us.
Thank you, Nidis. First of all, I would like to assure participants that are sending us their questions that Bismos's team will go through those questions and answer the ones that we don't have time to answer now in writing by email later on. So if they could leave their contact details, we will make sure to assist best we can. Now, answering the questions regarding the Expo 2020, it is a common misconception that Expo 2020 Dubai, which now will happen this year, is a one-time event. As Mr. Omar Khan has highly mentioned, Dubai sees Expo 2020 as a ongoing city vibe and connectivity of businesses, brands from around the world. Imagine it as a global presence on 365 days a year that will act as a networking hub in one location for all the markets and countries participating. Obviously for the startups, but not only for companies who plan to be present at Expo, it is important to put all your eggs in order and all your eggs in the basket. And here I mean in thinking of how you brand your product, preparing the correct presentation and portfolios of your services or your goods, making sure that you have consistency in the messaging that you present. Prepare your social media platforms, because nowadays we are very technical, and I assume that majority of visitors following a discussion at Expo while seeing or hearing your services will want to know more about you online. So there is now time for you before the Expo to prepare, even if it's just a simple landing page online where you describe the service, where you present your goods, where you develop the benefits of why that investor, if you're attracting funds, or consumer, that if you're selling a product or a service, should further engage with you. As at the opening remarks, Mr. Omar Khan mentioned, Expo 2020, it's not only about the introduction, hello, I'm this and this, and then goodbye. It is about supporting the businesses, assisting the entrepreneurs from around the world to understand the local market through the workshops and access to direct interaction, and also assuring the continuity of those relationships. So if you come prepared from perspective of branding of your product, attractive packaging, correct marketing platforms available, complete information and points of contact, the hardest, let's say the most severe mistake the majority startups do is that they promote their products, but then they do not think of how the communication is happening. And then those interested parties contact with them and they take a month to reply. So continuity, communicability, marketing, online presence, and preparation of a full comprehensive description of their services, benefits, and interactions is needed. You have now time to prepare it. And through these webinars that we will continue to do until the Expo event, we're here to assist you and answer your questions on how to make those more efficient, attractive, simplest, however, resultative. So then at Expo, you can make the highest impact.
Thank you, Mariana. One last question, because we're having a list of questions from our participants. We will keep that to our question and answer sessions for our discussion. But one last question for you. You are originally from Moldova, and some of us might not know where it is, so you will tell us where it is. As an entrepreneur who has made it in the UAE, what are your tips for African women in business who want to become entrepreneurs and succeed in the UAE? Thank you.
Thank you for the question. Indeed, Moldova is not a very well-known country. It's a very small country in Eastern Europe, bordered by Romania and Ukraine. And that's another reason to show that it doesn't matter from which background you come or how small or big your country is, the opportunities in the UAE are equal. My best advice for African women is to be bold and to try. I mean, if you don't try, if you don't ask, if you don't connect, if you don't network, you can't know the results. I have made the bold decision to move a decade ago in the UAE, and I have knocked at the doors of the government departments. They're open. There's no bureaucracy here. There's no security at the door. I mean, maybe Mr. Omar Khan will be happy that I'm saying this, but you could go to Dubai Chamber of Commerce and find the department of Mr. Omar Khan and knock at his door, and he will welcome you in answering your questions. Same applies to all other government or departments. approach, ask questions, don't be shy. And then once you engage and find reliable partners and source of information, continue. Maintain that networking, maintain that relationship. UAE is very high in regards to personal relationship as well. It's not a cold country, it's a warm country through its food, through its people, and through its weather, maybe too warm in summer. So you are most welcome here, but you have to make that initiative. You have to make that first step. You have to ask questions that are relevant to you. You have to put that information together and be bold and consistent. And once you start providing a service or a good, which I believe is the success of Bismosis Group, you need to make sure that you remain as good throughout the years as you are at the beginning. So maintain consistency of your service and products, understand what is the need on the market here, and try to reach to those standards, be it with a product or a service that you present, and you would have guaranteed success.
Thank you so much, Mariana. I think we need to stop our discussion here as we are having lists of questions to Mr. Omar, to the chief representatives, and also to you directly. So we will try to discuss on that during our discussion session. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and experience. You'll continue sharing us during our discussion session. I'm glad mentioning that we came to know you and your organization because through the Dubai Chamber. We're very grateful for our partnership. I sincerely thank Teba on the initiative that she found you, the Dubai Chamber, Mr. Omar's office, which you will be very instrumental in supporting our women, particularly not only Expo 2020, but working beyond that, so that using UAE as a hub, our women, our African women can go beyond that. So I'm glad to share and to announce that CAWE will be signing very soon memorandum of understanding with Bismosis. So we're glad. We know that having you there will be indeed instrumental for most of our African women to set up their businesses in Dubai and explore other opportunities beyond the UAE. So thank you so much.
An honor for us and for the entire team of Bismosis. Thank you for the opportunity.
Let's move to our poll question 2 before I invite our second speaker. Our question 2 poll is mentioning have you ever traded to or through Dubai before? So we'll have a few minutes to complete that, and we will have the full summary. Yeah, we can see the summary. 80% of our audience is responding no, and 20% is yes. So we can see a huge number has not started trading with Dubai. Hope the figure will change soon as we will be connected, fortunately, to the UAE market. Okay. Let's proceed then to our next speaker. It gives me great pleasure and honor to introduce our next speaker, Dr. Ashraf Ali Mahat, Chief Economist at Dubai Export. Dr. Ashraf has very rich experience working in Dubai, within the UAE. We believe sharing his knowledge and experience will be another contribution which our African women in business will benefit from. So thank you so much, Dr. Ashraf, joining us. I would like to ask a few questions so that you continue sharing your experiences. Let me ask you the same question which I did to Mariana to get to know you more. Who is Dr. Ashraf? Can you talk about Dubai Exports and the services that you offer?
Sure.
What can Dubai offer women in business specifically, as our focus is to African women in business, particularly also related to Expo 2020, when acting as a gateway to the MENA and the Asian market? So let's see those questions. Let's listen from you from those three questions, and then I'll continue my questions. Thank you, and over to you, Dr. Ashraf.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It's certainly a pleasure to be here. And let me just tell you, I actually love Africa. Until COVID, I made a point of going to Africa about 2-3 times a year. It's a fascinating place, and it's lovely because I've spent a lot of time working with African companies from Kenya, from Rwanda, from Tanzania, from Uganda, helping them enter the UAE market, the MENA market, and going overseas. So this actually explains a lot about my background in the sense that I'm actually a former academic, but I try to work with companies at a very practical level, offering hand-holding, advice, and supporting women, in fact, entrepreneurs generally, to enter and become successful in overseas markets. So my forte really is how to assist companies to enter global markets and how to make their products more competitive. I have this one mantra that you can sell everything and anything in any market as long as you know how to sell it. And that really is the key to success. As an organization, Dubai Exports is part of the government. We are an export promotion agency, and we complement the services of Dubai Chamber. And I would like to start off by saying that the first point of call should really be your Dubai Chamber local office. Although I'm quite happy to assist and answer any questions, but they do a wonderful job. They have a wonderful connectivity, and they should be your first port of call. Now, what does Dubai Exports offer? We are actually a trade promotion agency. In that sort of respect, we offer trade promotion services to any company registered anywhere in the UAE. And Mariana talked about how to register a company, and she's right. The agency that I work for, Dubai Economic Department, you can get a virtual license for a few $100s in 15 minutes or less, right? You don't need to be present here. You don't need to have an office. You don't need any of that. You can set up an office, and you can also have a bank account. It's very, very easy. But once you do that, we then help you and support you to go into the regional and international markets. It's very, very important to understand that Dubai and the UAE is on the doorstep of 1.8 billion people, 1.8 billion people, with over 500 million middle-class people, right? With every conceivable kind of need. And we support them in that. We do exhibitions, we do trade missions, we even do advocacy, hand-holding. We look for buyers for you. We support you in terms, you asked Mariana about standards and certification. That is part of our role. Our role is to understand that once you work out which market you want to enter, what are your standards you will need? What are the entry requirements? What are the documentations you'll need to actually provide an export plan for you? Because going into a foreign country is not an ad hoc activity. It has to be well planned. You have to know what your strategy is. How are you going to place your product? And that also leads me very nicely to the next point, which is how can Dubai or the UAE be your gateway to the MENA and Asian markets? As I said, it's 1.8 billion population, but you can't just enter. You have to think, you have to work out. The first question, and I've been saying this because I've been doing weekly webinars since last April, since COVID started. And when you have seen something, you cannot unsee it. And part of that means you have to look at the relevance of your product. Is your product relevant for today's market, the post-COVID market? Okay. What changes do you need to make to your product? We have the largest food exhibition taking place this week. It's all contactless. Last year, I remember it wasn't. This year, it's now become contactless. So the whole idea is how do you change your product to make it relevant for a post-COVID market? And I think this really is the key. Secondly, three things. Every market, I've been to 72 markets. In the last 13 years, I have helped companies enter 72 markets. And the wonderful thing I've seen, all 72 markets have three things in common. How can you take your product there faster, better, and more cost effectively? These are the three things you have to market. You have to look at the target market that you want to enter, right? Even in MENA, you're talking about 21 countries from Morocco on the extreme left to Iraq. They all have a demand. But again, you have to review your market. We help companies to identify whether they should place their product as a niche product, as a mass market product. Where do you place your product, right? And then it's also, how does your target market purchase the product? What are the distribution channels you can use? Do you go through a distributor agent? Do you use your product as an input to add value into the country? Do you go through straight to the retail sector? Do you use digital commerce? Do you set up an establishment? What are the different ways? And each product, each service, now I mentioned product, it can also be a service. Each product or service is unique. It has a different approach. And again, what are the revenue generators? What is your business model when you enter a country, right? And the next, and perhaps the most important, is to know your pricing. How are you going to price a product for a particular market? I mean, it's quite funny, and I can laugh about it now, but we have a product here which is very, very cheap, extremely cheap. But when we help the company enter a particular market, we positioned it so it became a premier product, right? So the idea is, again, how you use your pricing, how you use your 4 Ps. Your 4 Ps are relevant wherever you are. Price, product, promotion, place. Again, extremely relevant. So how do you use that to promote your product? And again, these are some of the areas that we can help you in. Now, more specifically for African women looking to use the UAE as a hub, one of the things I would look at, and one of the things I'd say to you is that in this 1.8 billion mass of people, there's no such thing as a typical or an average consumer. There is no such thing. Even in the UAE, I mean, the UAE has a population of 9 million, 10 million people. There is no average consumer. 88% of the population are expatriates from over 130 different countries. Incomes range from $400 a month to over $100,000 a month, right? So that tells you you have a wide segment of population. You can sell any product for any market segment. You also have to look at what are the influences, what are the conversions, what are the factors that actually convert the individual. And then the next one is, many people enter the UAE market, not necessarily for the domestic market, but how to leverage this market for global expansion. Because this year we expect 30 million visitors for Expo, probably another 12 million visitors. So really the idea is that, do you use the UAE as a launch pad for wider global expansion because of the large mass of tourist population here? And then the next aspect, which is very, very important, is the idea that when you want to export, how can you synergize on the logistics links? I think that makes a huge difference. One of the things that I love saying is that the UAE is the world's largest re-exporter of fruits and vegetables, yet it has only 1% of arable land. And it's able to do this because of excellent logistics. So again, it's what you sell, how you sell, and how you want to capture your market. And just to give you some real cases, this week in Gulf Food, I was pleasantly surprised by one of the companies that we assisted. They started very recently, now they're $1 million business. So here you have the ability to tap into markets, you have the ability to grow, but it requires a lot of careful planning because exporting is a very structured, strategic activity. I'll stop there.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ashraf. You have touched some of the questions which I was going to raise, but again, I will try to repeat it again so that you provide us more explanation. What products or services do you think would be of preference for African women to export to the UAE, and the UAE as a hub to re-export to other markets? You have heard about the Continental Free Trade Agreement, the African Continental Free Trade Agreement. We believe that it will unlock new business opportunities. What do you think that will have for the UAE companies to work more with Africa? And where do you see potential synergies between UAE and African women in business? I will have my last one once you respond to those. Thank you.
Sure. From my perspective, what products can you sell? I get asked that question quite a lot. And the answer I always say is that you have to look at what is your product and how can you target to a captive audience. We already import vast amounts of fresh produce and horticulture from Ethiopia, but that's just one area. When we look at the wider African market, a lot of our imports are based on mineral resources, mainly gold, etc. But we are now moving into a whole range of different things. I work very closely with Kenyan companies, and we do a lot on creative industries, which is a service-based sector. We do IT, we do connectivity with fintech. So it's not only goods, it's also services. And I genuinely believe that we can actually offer a huge range of different products and services. There is actually no product that cannot be sold here. And there's no product that cannot be that you cannot re-export from Dubai. Just to give you one simple example, we were working with some African producers, and they wanted to export to USA. There are about 17 flights a day from the UAE to the USA, pre-COVID, of course. And from the particular African country, there were 2 flights to Dubai, which meant that you could actually capitalize on the AGOA agreement. That's the African Growth Opportunities Agreement, which allowed you tariff-free entry into USA. So the ideal thing was you could get from farm to a Walmart store within 48 hours using Dubai and its ready-built, excellent infrastructure. So the idea is that you have to look at your product and you have to see where you can extract the greatest value, because there are 210 markets globally. You cannot enter all 210 simultaneously. You have to prioritize your market. You have to understand where you will extract the greatest value. So it need not be just the MENA. You can actually use the MENA, and in this case, we actually used Dubai and the logistics routes from Dubai to bring the produce from Africa into Dubai and from Dubai into the USA, 48 hours from farm to a Walmart store. And that's capitalizing on the AGOA agreement. Another very interesting aspect, and you mentioned something for me, which is amazing, which is the African Continental Free Trade Agreement. The reverse of this, and I'll come back to the African Continental Free Trade Agreement in a minute, but the reverse of this is something called the Greater Arab Free Trade Agreement. This allows a company to export to 21 Arab countries without any tariffs or non-tariff barriers. How can African countries or companies benefit from this? Simple. The easiest way to do this is to actually add value add in the UAE. Once you add value add in the UAE, you can then export to the 21 Arab countries without any tariffs or taxes. And this actually allows you to expand your market in a seamless manner. The opposite is also true. How can you actually use the African Continental Free Trade Agreement? I believe through collaboration. I think this actually opens a huge door of opportunity in terms of collaboration. Now, what do I mean by this? I mean, one of the interesting aspects of collaboration that we have done is technology transfer. Technology in the modern world is a very short window. You replace your mobile phones every year. Technology has a very short window. How you can capitalize on the technology from these countries, produce the products, and then actually export within the African continent. Moving more specifically to women and the services that we offer women exporters, I run a program called She Trades MENA, which is part of the International Trade Center. And the whole idea behind this program, and this again is how we can help women, is that starting International Women's Day, which I think about 9 days time, on the 8th of March, we are doing something called the Road to Expo. And any woman around the world can participate from this. The way to participate is go to shetrades.com, register for free. You get 6 months of capacity building, 6 months of training split into 3 different categories. First, you have a qualified United Nations certificate on a particular aspect. It could be e-commerce, how to use social media, how to do logistics. You have panel sessions with successful women that have actually achieved success through entering particular markets, and you can learn from them. And the third aspect is workshops. So this will start from 8th of March all the way until end of September. And then for 3 days, we have a She Trades Global event, which is on 17th, 18th, 19th of October. You will, if you register, you will get exhibition space. We are hoping to have 3,500 women attending. 3,500 women. This will be the largest gathering of women-owned businesses globally. You will be able to do B2B meetings, not just with business women from UAE or from MENA, no, from 210 countries. That's the amazing thing. And you don't have to be physically in Dubai, because this is an event that will be done or conducted in a blended approach. So it'll be virtual as well as physical. Of course, if you're physical, then you get to exhibit your products. I believe that you'll be able to exhibit your products for free. So you'll be able to exhibit your products, you'll be able to attend the Expo event venue that we have also arranged for all the participants, or at least those attending on a physical basis. So you have 6 months of capacity building where you will learn to make your product or service viable and competitive. 3 days of actual meetings, 17, 18, 19. And then we don't stop there. We have 6 months of activities at the venue, at the Expo venue, where we are working with different country pavilions. We are working with the UN Women's Pavilion. So you can actually carry on meeting more women, carry on connecting globally. And that's really what we want to do. So I would strongly urge all the women watching here, go to She Trades, S-H-E, Trades, TRADES.com, register. It's free to register. It's also free to attend She Trades Global Dubai. It's free to receive all the capacity building. And the good thing is, in fact, we had an event on Monday. We had 541 B2B meetings, okay, all for free. So there were women, and this was for all the Commonwealth countries. So you could actually meet women from 54 countries and actually used the UAE as a way to actually connect with women globally. So I think from our perspective, there is no product or service that you cannot export. The African Continental Free Trade Agreement is a wonderful game changer. And I think this will change the level of collaboration between companies in the UAE and companies in the African continent. The Expo is a great opportunity to meet and connect. And we at She Trades MENA, as said, are actually doing the She Trades set of events, which will hopefully assist women to export and meet with women globally. Let me just point out, over the 6 months from March to September, even though we'll be doing capacity building and panel sessions and workshops, you will still be able to connect and have B2B meetings with counterparts around the world. But this one actually is only for women.
Thank you, Dr. Ashraf. Quite lots of information and knowledge sharing. Thank you so much for on the She Trades capacity building, which most of our African women in business are also connected with ITC on that. But I think all of them have underlined the upcoming exhibition, which is going to be organized parallel to the Expo 2020, which hopefully our African women in business will definitely register. The organizers are advising me to open up for questions and answers, but I have one question left, but you will answer it later on while you are responding to other questions. You will share us what is it that your organization can extend to African women in business? What is it that our African women in business can partner to your organization so that they can expand their export base within UAE and beyond? So you probably, when we are having our discussion, the question and answer session, we will explore that. Thank you so much, Dr. Ashraf again, and Mariana. It had been, we are having quite lots of questions, but our team had been working a lot in summarizing that. So most of the questions going to Marina. What are the costs of setting up a satellite office in Dubai? As one of the attendees, the participant is from Washington, DC. Do I need a permanent office? Do I need there to be physically? Another question, can I provide consulting services within the UAE? And if yes, how do I go about it? Another one, are there any tax systems for foreign-owned businesses in Dubai? This is for you, Mariana.
Thank you, Dr. Najat. Just wanted to check with the organizers if we should maybe proceed to poll question number 3 first, and then based on that, I can answer accordingly to the addressed question.
Okay, the organizers are advising us to do question 3 on the poll. Excuse me, Mariana. So we'll continue the discussion. So the question, the last question will be, do you think you will visit Expo 2020? I hope after all these explanations, most of us will be excited. So let's see what will be the yes and or no.
very curious to see if we have convinced majority of the attendees to consider at least visiting Expo 2020 or benefiting of the invitation of Dr. Ashraf in registering in SheTrade's website and be present. It's free of charge, so why not? Let's see the result. Wonderful, what a beautiful feedback.
Sorry, Mariana. Let's see the poll results. You see the yes is going 92%, so we're glad. Thank you.
I look forward to meeting everybody at the Expo, all the respondents.
Yeah. So let's go back to you, Mariana. Then I have one more question to Dr. Ashraf. Once you're done, I will get back to him.
Thank you, Ms. Najas. Thank you for the questions asked. Firstly, I will start with a question regarding can I provide consulting services in the UAE? As the question is slightly incomplete, if the question is about providing the services while being based abroad and not having a license in the UAE, obviously, as I discussed at the initial introduction, any country can target countries in other regions to provide their services. However, to be fully legal and correct and to have your billings and your income protected and to have access to the benefits and support that the UAE government offers to businesses coming here, also having access to investors and partnerships and reputation in the market, it is recommended that if you start providing services to individuals or corporations based in the UAE, then you should consider registering a license for that purpose. Consultancy activities are regulated based on categories. Obviously, if we're speaking about consultancy in engineering, construction, or medical, these are highly regulated categories, and it will require a costly, high cost and qualification of the specialists that are consulting to be attested and recognized by the local authorities in the UAE. If we're talking general consulting for business development, marketing, PR, personal development or lifestyle consultancy, then there are activities and licenses available for as low as $150 that can be obtained remotely, and then further can give you access to register your residency in the UAE and travel here and have the benefits of the local market. I hope I've answered the questions. If you have further questions regarding consultancy services in the UAE, different emirates, then feel free to address them later on. If we speak about opening a representative office, we have to understand, first of all, for Ms. Ivan's question, that representative office is not permitted to, as an activity, is not permitted for your company to actually execute a trade or a provision of services in the UAE. So if you would like only to have a presence where you can advertise and bring brand awareness in the local market, a representative office will be an option. However, if you plan to directly represent your company abroad here, engage in contractual agreements and sales, find suppliers and clients via wholesale or retail provision of services and goods, then you have to register either a branch entity, a subsidiary entity, or a LLC company, either in free zone or mainland, depending on which market you are targeting. Important to mention that mainland DED licensing is the only license that allows, without limitation, to trade or exchange goods and services directly to consumer inside the UAE and internationally. However, free zone licenses are platforms that offer cost-effective licensing access targeted at specific industries, and they, as per the commercial companies law at federal level, are meant to operate within the free zone of registration and international, and are restricted to not provide B2C services or goods into the mainland market without access to a local mainland licensed distributor. And then the last question was, I'm sorry, Ms. Najas, if you can remind me. Oh, tax system. I found it. Okay, so
on the foreign businesses.
Indeed. So if we speak about the tax systems that exist in the UAE, we know that Federal Tax Authority freshly introduced the VAT, value added tax, which is applicable only on the total turnover or total sales of a company, sales of goods or services executed to consumers inside the UAE. Sales to companies and the consumers abroad have applicability in some instances of zero tax or different taxation or VAT treatment based on the type of goods in the country that you're selling to due to the dual taxation agreements. However, it depends on what type of company you register. If the company in the UAE is a branch company, so it is not a statutory independent company, but a branch of a foreign company, then the 5% VAT will apply on the sales of the branch. However, the income of the branch from a legal perspective is reflected on the parent company. So if the parent company, let's say, is in Ethiopia or in UK, then the parent company has to declare that income that the branch has obtained and pay the difference and tax applicabilities into the country of origin of the parent company. Should the company in the UAE be a subsidiary, LLC, limited by shares structure, in that case, the tax applicability is strictly on the operations of the entity inside the UAE. And some exemptions exist for companies that trade with goods that are applicable of excise tax and specific regulated industries and finance, fund management, and high valued commodities. Again, there is a specialized approach depending on the industry, the type of the company that you set up, so the legal structure, and the type of products and services that you provide. VAT is a general applicable value on the sale. However, other aspects might affect independence of the factor that we spoke earlier. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I have a question for Mr. Omar. What are some of the socio-cultural aspects of doing business one should be aware of in doing business in Dubai? And one of our, and the other colleague from Congo-Kinshasa was asking, many women from Congo-Kinshasa are doing business in Dubai, but why don't we have any respective chamber in Kinshasa? So over to you, Mr. Omar.
Thank you very much. It's a very good question. Now, I'll answer the second question first. With regards to presence in DRC in Kinshasa, our offices actually are not just dedicated to their respective countries. They're actually mobile. They're what I call business commandos. So wherever there is action, they are asked to go. So if there's an exhibition somewhere in Dar es Salaam, or if it's in Kinshasa, or it's in Kigali, or in Tebe, usually we go there if it makes sense to us, if we know the organizer of the event or the exhibition. Of course, coming back to the question about doing business, now, Dubai is a very interesting place. It's one of the few places in the world where we have people from like Germany, England, Canada, USA, UAE, Africa, China doing business. And it's not usually easy, because if you go to a German or a British guy, they would want to do business, talk the details, and get it out of the way. And then they can relax. If you go to the Chinese businessmen or the Arab culture, or even in the African culture, a lot of the times we have to get to know each other. We have a coffee or a tea. We talk about family, weather, everything, get to trust each other, and then we get into business. So it's very, very strange how all these can work together here in Dubai. It's very unique as well. Even if you go to New York or London or Paris, you will not see it. This is something to be aware of, because also the Dubai culture has been taking the best practices of everywhere. So for example, when it comes to a lot of things that Dr. Ashraf was talking about, preparedness, efficiency, professionalism, knowing your markets, knowing where you're priced, doing your research, and knowing where your product stands in the price versus quality. Understanding logistics also is extremely important. It's not good enough that you just know you have an excellent product, because I've heard many people say, why isn't my product being exported more? And that's a very good question. It could be competition. It could be pricing. It could be packaging. It could be certification. It could be labeling. It could be logistics. There might be some barriers there. And every gap is an opportunity for business partnership. And this is something that Dubai can play a part of. So this is really important in actually bridging the gap. It could also be the marketing. So even having the best products, the shipping and everything else, and maybe Dr. Ashraf can add to this, it could be the promotion, the marketing, the branding based on who you are targeting. So you could have your same coffee coming out of Ethiopia. One is going to Europe. So you have to be customizing it to the European flavor, look, feel, colors. One is going to Saudi Arabia, and maybe one is going to Iran. So you would have to understand who you're talking to and customize your product and be aware of who your competition is there as well. So there's so much to take there. And of course, it's very important in Dubai when people come to buy that you aggregate your shipping methods are very clear, your consistency of supply is very clear, because as Dr. Ashraf said, you might promote, then you might get a lot of orders. Can you handle the orders? Can you handle the sales? Can you handle the after sales service and follow up with the customer clientele? Also, that is also very important. Maybe Dr. Ashraf, you can add to this.
Sure. I mean, I think you've answered the question very well, but the example I like to use here is everyone is aware of the restaurant Nando's, and that's very popular. But in most countries, you go and help yourself and you serve yourself the drinks and you serve yourself the sauces, right? But if you look at the regional versions, no, it's not. They come and serve you, they come and bring the sauces, they come and refill. Why is that? Because the culture here is very different, right? And when I say here, I actually mean throughout the whole GCC. So, and this is where, if you're going to target a market, you have to visit the market. There's nothing like actually physically going, participating in an exhibition. And I genuinely believe that you should participate as a country pavilion. But visiting the country, understanding, talking to people in the country to understand what are the nuances, right? Because you cannot just cut and paste a product from your home country and bring it here. That doesn't work, right? That doesn't work. You have to understand the small nuances. How do people buy the product? What are, I mean, one of the things I always talk about in the Middle East, especially the GCC, is the Instagram culture. Your product has to look beautiful, but look beautiful where? For the camera, right? Because you're going to take about 50 photographs before you're going to consume the product. So this is really the kind of culture we're talking about. Who are your influencers going to be, right? So really, you have to visit the country. You have to understand how the consumption is taking place. What are the most effective distribution channels? One of the interesting things you could do is, for example, link up with Noon, Amazon, TradeLink. These are all e-commerce portals to test your products from where you are at the moment, to see what is the idea. But also, I like to use online portals to understand what's the pricing point, what is the packaging that your competitors are using, what's the mechanism of delivery. Are they using an agent? Are they adding value in the local market? What are they doing that you can actually learn from? So there are three things, again, to summarize. A, visit the market. You have to visit the market. You have to smell the market. You have to feel the market. You have to look at the market. Secondly, look what your competitors are doing. I'm not saying copy them, learn from them. Thirdly, never simply cut and paste. And when I look at Nando's, and by the way, it's lunchtime here, so I can talk about this. But when I look at Nando's, and I use this as an example, same flavor, same chicken, but the fact that they've understood and learned the nuances of each market that they enter. And that's really what you need to do. I'll stop there.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ashraf. there was one question which was left to you. What was that your organization Dubai Exports can offer to African women in business to trade within the UAE? And one more question to you directly was, does Dubai Trade help in connecting women who have started their businesses to investors who are looking for opportunities in Africa?
Absolutely. But just as correction, our sister agency is Dubai Trade. They do the trade facilitation. We are Dubai Exports. But to answer your question, can we find you investors? Yes, we can. If you go to shetrades.com, register, the 6 months that I mentioned from March to September, one of those months is linked on how to raise finance, how to do a pitch deck. In fact, I did a training shop. I do a lot of training for entrepreneurs. And one of the training shops I did was how to design a pitch deck that you can actually sell your business to investors. And then on 17, 18, 19, in Dubai, both virtually and physically, we are actually bringing in and inviting angel investors. Venture capitalists tend not to be interested in small ticket investments, but largely angel investors to finance or to look at the businesses that are looking for investment and seeing which ones they will actually support. We're actually working with different business angels. There's also Pacific Women's Business Angels and Women's Business Angel Networks that actually support specifically women. And then within that, there's certain business angels that look for fintech, some that look for food and beverages. So we are definitely going to be doing that, but don't go in front of an investor and ask for money unprepared, right? It's very important that you sign up, you learn how to produce a pitch deck. Now, it sounds wonderful. You know, I know how to use PowerPoint. I can do wonderful PowerPoint presentations. Yeah, but trying to get money from somebody is very, very difficult, right? You have to know what they're looking for, how to present your ROIs, how to present your payback periods, how to present your risk, etc. The other question, if I remember correctly, is how can we help African women export from now? 3 things again. Go to the online platforms, TradeLink. TradeLink is established by one of our sister agencies, DAVSA, Dubai Airport Free Zone. It allows you to register and start connecting, but that's a B2B portal. Again, I'd recommend you to look at other online portals. Through our own activities at Dubai Exports, if you're registered here, we actually work to help you expand your business overseas. If you're not registered here and you're a woman-owned business, you can use our She Trades portal to promote your business globally. But again, one more thing, always make contact with your Dubai Chamber local office, right? Because I think that's the best way to funnel all the inquiries.
Thank you, Dr. Ashraf. Thank you so much. We have to close. We have gone about 10 extra minutes because we haven't even exhausted all the questions and the discussion points. But again, we have to stop somewhere. My sincere thanks goes to our speakers and representatives of Dubai Chamber offices and the audience. Thank you all for joining us once again on today's webinar. This concludes our first webinar series under African Women in Business, Connecting the Dots to the UAE Market and Expo 2020. This webinar series is organized to pave the way for our road to Expo 2020, a 3-day African Women in Business Summit. I would like to thank all our partners, African Union Commission, WGDD, Women Gender Development Directorate, Dubai Chamber, Bizmosys and Dubai Exports for their contribution to this first webinar. My thanks again goes to the back team that had been highly engaged working on the preparations for this webinar, the Dubai Chamber Africa offices. My special thanks goes to my dear colleague Teba, the Ethiopian Dubai Chamber Office, which they had been sincerely committed in building our capacities and particularly working on this webinar together with their partners of the other offices. We look forward to seeing you all on our next webinar series. Our second series will focus on the benefits of personal branding and the art and value of networking, which is quite an important area. Scheduled for May, which will be followed by our third webinar that will focus on entrepreneurship and mentoring, helping small businesses. Again, another important area which you need to equip yourselves, African women in business. Don't miss that. Those upcoming information on those upcoming webinars will be connected to you in the coming days. We will get back to you on the details of that. Thank you so much again. In completing, we're requesting you to complete a brief survey because we want to be informed on how we did this one so that it can help us to do better our next series of the second and third webinar. So thank you so much again, our dear speakers. Thank you so much, the Dubai offices, Mr. Omar, Mariana, Dr. Rashraif, the gentlemen of the Dubai offices, my dear Teba, all of you, thank you so much. It had been wonderful and it was really a breakthrough and we have broken the ice today. So we hope the second and the third ones will be very much inspiring. And I was wondering on the participation, it was so intact. So we had more than 100 participants still continuing asking questions. So it was really engaging. So thank you so much for the Dubai Chamber sponsoring this webinar. We're so grateful for your continued efforts, going beyond Kawe, going beyond Ethiopia, empowering African women in business. Thank you so much and have a great day.
Thank you very much. Stay safe. Bye, everybody.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.